All right, are you ready? Are you ready for another chapter? I hope you're excited. I hope you're ready. Today we're talking about the follow through mindsets. If you have no idea what's going on, we're reading this book. It's called Finish What You Start by Mr. Peter Hollins, and we're on chapter 4. And hopefully, so far, you're feeling like you have some specific things that you can do to be the best version of you. I love this book so far because it is packed. It is jam packed full of things that you can continue to do to strengthen the muscles that we have in order to be the best version of our future selves. Today, chapter 4, the follow through mindset. I'm on page 85 here, and the author writes, follow through is 100% mental. It takes a cognitive effort to follow through on something, especially when you hit discouraging obstacles. Mindsets help with that. What is a mindset? A mindset is a set way of visualizing and approaching situations and problems. Certain mindsets are all it takes to find the will and motivation necessary to follow through on something. Here again, he started the chapter with something so crucial to your success, to my success, to the success of all humankind, all being kind. Follow through is 100% mental. If you are not strong here, you are never going to get to the end goal. And I know so many people who struggle with feeling confident in themselves. And once your mental confidence starts to wave, like who knows what that train wreck can lead to. But if you can understand that it's a mental game, like you're always going to be trying to outdo the best version of whatever's going on up here. And even if the best version, the current version, is not quite as great as you would like it to be, that's cool. As long as you know that, as long as you're self aware, you can take that information, we can build on it, we can work on it, we can make it stronger because now we know it's a mental game. He goes on to talk about this guy named Gerald, which hopefully you've read the book, so I won't tell you all about Gerald, but what I will say is that Gerald had this big goal and then ended up like so many people not following through with the big goal. I don't know if you know someone or if you are someone who has had a big goal or has had the same goal over and over again. Like you start, you stop, you start, you stop. You're still thinking about it. You wish you could do it. You just can't figure out how to get to the finish line. Gerald is this person. According to the author, it says that Gerald settled back into a job that he hated. Oh, he hated it simply because it was comfortable to him. And then he goes on to, he, meaning the author, Mr. Hollins, he goes on to say what kind of mindsets we can start to craft, create to make us stronger when it comes to building the muscle of following through. Page 88, he says, had Gerald decided to become comfortable with discomfort, he never would have given up just because the going got tough at one point. He could have adjusted to the discomfort of making sacrifices and embracing the unknown, scary situations, which would have made him better able to found his business and become an entrepreneur. So, mindset one, what we're looking at, so that we don't end up like Gerald. Mindset number one, you're worthwhile. And I know if you have the book, it says it's worthwhile, but you're worthwhile. It's worthwhile. The goal is worthwhile. Whatever it is, you are worth chasing that thing down. If you don't have, again, that confidence, that strength in yourself that you are worth the thing, you're going to give up every time. This always happens to me. Nothing ever works out right. If that's the kind of conversations that you have going on in your brain, this is you. This is the mindset that we need to start crafting. The mindset of, I'm worthwhile. I deserve this. My family is worthwhile. My family deserves this. I can do this. Everybody else is out there doing it. And if everybody else can do it, and they're people, and I'm a people, I can do it too. You're worthwhile. No matter how hard things get, it's your efforts that's going to get you the results you desire. Nothing else. The author also says not to create self-limiting beliefs that hold you back, such as thinking that you're not good as everyone else. And he continues to go on and he mentions how you can do this. And I think the biggest place, and I think he's right about this, that it tends to pop up is in social conversations or maybe at work where you want to give your input to a situation, but instead you kind of hold on to it because you don't feel like your input is important enough. Maybe you don't feel like you're smart enough. Maybe you don't feel like you're good enough. But what you have to start working on, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but what you have to start working on is the understanding that what you're doing is valuable. What you're saying is valuable and it's relevant to you and your goals and maybe your family's goals. So such a good chapter, such a good start to this chapter. He continues to kind of dig a little deeper into it, saying, assigning value and remembering how each thing you do ties into your main goal is very important because it helps you feel that you are doing well just by working. So disassociating a little and putting that disassociation, putting those efforts, putting those thoughts, putting those feelings into tasks instead. And if you're doing the tasks, you must be moving forward. And sometimes, again, we talked about this earlier, we get caught up in our feelings. And your feelings are going to detour you from your goals. Don't let them detour you, okay? Let's stay on track and let's understand that in order for us to get moving, we're going to have a worthwhile, I'm worthwhile mindset. The second thing that he says, or the second mindset that we can have, is comfort with discomfort, which he kind of started the chapter off that way, and we're jumping back to that. But this is very important because following through, getting to the end goal, finishing what you start is never comfortable. It is always going to require that you're doing something unfamiliar to you. I think that we all just kind of get settled down. We know what we're good at. We know how to survive in our lives. And so many times we forget to start something new. We have this fear of stepping outside of our comfort zone. But if I were to ask you about your comfort zone, you would tell me, and I know that you would have the understanding that I can't stay in my comfort zone if I'm going to grow. I can't stay in my comfort zone if I'm going to get better. I can't stay in my comfort zone if I'm going to be the better version of me tomorrow and then, kick the old version of me to the curb. I can't do that. I have to step outside of my comfort zone. The more things you do that make you uncomfortable, the more comfortable you become with discomfort. And I know that the author says this over and over again, and I'm going to continue to kind of toot that horn because I completely agree. You have to continue to put yourself in these uncomfortable situations. It is not natural to do so. So me telling you, hey, let's get uncomfortable today, chances are very likely that you're gonna, once you arise to the situation of discomfort, you have a higher probability of backing out. You're like, nope, good, got scared, absolutely not gonna do it. And the reality is, there's not many things that you can break. There's not many things that you can break that you can't fix. Somebody was telling me, and I can't remember who was having a conversation, but they were renovating a home. And the reason that this person had so much faith in themselves is because someone had instilled in them and let them know that there's nothing that you can go in here and do and break that we can't fix later. So, in knowing that, that gave that person so much freedom to try all the things, to move things, to open things up, to break things up, to put things in places that people might not think it was, the right place to put it. And obviously, you go back, you live, you learn, but then at the end of it, you create something magnificent. And I thought that was a really cool story because it can be instilled in you to be strong, to be able and confident to step outside of your comfort zone. But if it hasn't been instilled in you from a parent or a guardian or a teacher, if it hasn't been instilled in you, you can build this muscle yourself. And if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to. And I really want you to take a look at your current life and think, all right, when's the last time I tried something hard or new? Like, when's the last time I did that? Because if you haven't done it recently, then you're not able really to connect with the idea of finishing what you start, because you need to know what it feels like. You need to know what that discomfort feels like, to really jostle you around and move you forward. So the more you do things that make you uncomfortable, the more comfortable you get. The author goes on and talks about mindset number 3, and that is allow learning. And I will admit, I jumped ahead because I thought I knew what he meant by allowing learning, but I had to backpedal and actually read what he meant. And he says that this mindset entails developing the viewpoint that following through and finishing equals learning and evaluating yourself. So you are essentially testing and scoring yourself based on your progress, and giving up means that's an automatic failure. But when you finish something, that means you aced the test. You did a great job. You get to see how you did. You get to evaluate your performance. You gain lots of valuable skills and information that can help form your success and enable you to try again with better success, more success, should you ever fail at something in the future. And this is very important. This is really good. At least I got a lot from this, because while I think learning is important, it is important. You have to be open and willing to learn. You have to be available to allow information to penetrate your dome and stay there. And you also have to be willing to know that you might not always have everything right, but you can learn it. You have to be willing and understand that you're going to have to test yourself from time to time. And in those tests, you might find something that you don't like. And that's okay, because in that learning, that evaluation, once we get to the end of the test, we get to go back and say, oh, I get it now. I can do this better now. I'm smarter now. I've learned so much now. But you have to be willing to go through the hard part, which is learning, letting that information sink in, testing yourself on that information, and evaluating yourself after. Which is why when it comes to school, a lot of people, they don't give the tests enough credit. Or let let me back up. Maybe you're giving the test too much credit. Because one, you're smart enough, you actually know what you're doing. Okay, let's just start there. You've been sitting in classes, you have the information seeping in your brain, you know exactly what's going on, you know exactly what you're doing. But then you start to second guess yourself when it comes to actually taking the test. In reality, if we were to just sit down and have a conversation about it, you know exactly what's going on. So in that, it's this fear of following through, this fear of not being able to get to the end. And it's this fear like, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But the truth of the matter is, you get to the end of the test and you're like, dang. You go back, you evaluate the questions you get wrong, you realize you second guessed yourself, you realize you knew the answers. And the cool thing about this is hopefully when you go back to take the test, the next time, you have grown from that situation and you're a better test taker now. That's the idea. Hopefully, this is you. You're better after you've evaluated yourself. Viewing your endeavors as a quest for knowledge can make challenges seem less daunting. It takes the fear out of failing because you still gain knowledge. And at the end of the day, knowledge is the new money. Get you some. The next mindset is, well, actually, before I go there, there's, and I think I just said it, but I want to make sure that I reiterate it. The author says that what can I learn from this? You know, really just changing the narrative. You know, every time you're being tested, every time you're testing yourself, every time you're evaluating yourself, just change that narrative a little. What can I learn from this? Not, oh, I failed at something. You didn't fail if you got to the finish line. You didn't fail if you saw it all the way through. Things maybe didn't go exactly as a plan, but what can I learn from this so I can be the better version of me in the future? All right, mindset 4, de-stress. And I don't know why this one took me aback. I was just like, de-stress. And then as soon as I said it, I was like, oh yeah, definitely de-stress. Stress affects how much willpower and self-control you have. And this one is a little tricky because I think stress can sometimes lead to laziness. Like you can super overcorrect. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard, everything good, and then it blows up, and then then you crash on the other side. And because you don't want to have this feeling of blowing up, right? You don't try those things anymore. So you have to be really aware, self-aware of how you are feeling and how your body is feeling. On page 97, the author says, an Australian study showed that students who were stressed because of their exams neglected healthy habits like maintaining a proper diet, getting enough sleep, and exercising. They also smoked more, consumed more caffeine, struggled with controlling their emotions, and paid less attention to household chores, self-care habits, commitments, and spending. If you are stressed, your world could potentially stop if you don't figure out how to de-stress. One way I always know if people are at a high level of stress is if they get sick when they take like vacation or time off. They are going, pushing, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you get to a break, you get to a weekend, and your body is just like, finally. And just in case you thought you were going to do anything else, you're not. And then you get sick, and then you must lay down. And so I'm like, for me, it's a trigger conversation. I'm like, oh, you must be stressed. Now, if you meet a person who just every vacation they have, they are crashing and burning, they're getting sick out of nowhere, chances are very likely that they have not learned the art of how to de-stress. and when to de-stress. I think there's probably a million ways to do this. The author does give you some great ideas, you know, spending at least a few minutes a day de-stressing, doing some things that you love, listening to music, walking. But again, that's just that's you being self-aware of what helps bring you back down to an equilibrium instead of pushing hard, 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 and then not taking a breath, not taking a breather. If these things help you, then do these things. If you read these things and you're like, oh, everybody always tells me to do these things, cool. Either step outside of your comfort zone and try them anyway, or dig deep into what is going to help you de-stress. Because if you don't, your body will sit you down on its own. That's in my opinion, why people get sick most of the time. Projection bias is when people falsely project their current feelings onto their future feelings. If you're feeling depressed, stressed, and tired, chances are likely you're going to think that you're going to feel this way the next time that you do this. But that's not the reality of the situation. The reality is that you're feeling stressed, depressed, and tired right now. So however you're feeling right now, tend to it right now. Get to a place where you don't explode anymore. Get to a place where you recognize, you know what? I've been working 50, 60, 70-hour days. I don't know how you would work 70-hour days, and I haven't had any time for myself. Take time for yourself. It's mandatory when it comes to stress, and stress obviously will deter you from finishing what you start. The author says, for example, people condemn junk food when they are hungry without realizing how much they want those delicious cookies once they're hungry. Is that true? Like, I'm on a diet, I can't eat those. Yeah, and it's easy to say that when you're in a good mood, when you're happy, when you want to do the right thing. But when you're stressed, depressed, and tired, you want all the cookies. Every one of them. Bring them. The point being, don't underestimate the impact of stress on your ability to follow through. It will impact you. So make sure you know how to de-stress. And on that, I think the biggest takeaway from this chapter, in my opinion, is that this is 100% mental. It's 100% on you. And I 100% believe that you can do it. All right, let's see. We're moving on to chapter 5, the science of smashing procrastination. And I'll see you in the next video for chapter 5, finish what you start. Bye.